welcome to the Crafty Manatee. Today I'm going to be showing you how to crochet this Sally ornament from The Nightmare Before Christmas. I'll walk you through every step along the way on how to crochet this Sally ornament, but if you are new to amigurumi, you can check out my amigurumi basic series here on my channel. That will help you be familiar with all of the terms that I'm using throughout the video. You can also find a written pattern available for free of this Sally ornament over on Ribbler. So if you want to follow along that way instead, you can check out that pattern. So let's go ahead and get started crocheting our Sally. Here are the materials that you're going to need to crochet your Sally ornament. You're going to need about 5 grams of worsted weight yarn in blue. You'll need about 4 grams of worsted weight yarn in yellow. We'll also need about 23 grams of worsted weight yarn in red, about 2 grams of worsted weight yarn in white, about 1 gram of worsted weight yarn in pink, and another 1 gram of yarn in blue. You'll also need a small amount of black yarn for embroidering on the details. We'll be using a 4mm crochet hook or the letter G. And finally, you'll need scissors and a tapestry needle for cutting the yarn tails and weaving them in at the end, also for sewing on the pieces. To start off our Sally ornament, we're going to start with our red yarn, and we're going to make a magic ring and make 6 single crochet stitches into that ring. Now we can pull that yarn tail tight, and that will help close up all of these stitches, and then we will slip stitch into the first stitch that we made. Now for the next round, we are going to increase stitches, so we're going to go from having 6 stitches in this round up to having 12 stitches. So to do that, we're going to work 1 increase in every stitch around. So we're going to increase, and now we're going to repeat that 5 more times. For the next round, we are going to single crochet 1 and then increase, and we'll repeat that 5 more times around for a total of 18 stitches. So we will single crochet 1 and then increase, and we'll repeat that 5 more times. Now we are going to single crochet 2 and then increase, and we're going to repeat that 5 more times for a total of 24 stitches. So we'll go ahead and single crochet 2 and then increase, and we'll repeat that 5 more times. Alright, and now we are going to switch yarn colors over to blue. So this is the top of Sally's head here, and we're working in red so that it will blend in with her hair. And now we are going to switch to blue, which is the main color of her body. So we're going to go ahead and attach this blue yarn. And now we are going to single crochet 3 and then increase, and we'll repeat that 5 more times for a total of 30 stitches in this round. So we're going to single crochet 3 and then increase, and we'll repeat that 5 more times. And that was our final increase round for the top of Sally's head. So now for the next 5 rounds, we are going to work a single crochet stitch in every stitch around. So that's going to be single crocheting 30 and doing that for a total of 5 rounds. So I will meet you back here after we have worked those 5 rounds of single crochet stitches. All right, I am back with those 5 rounds of single crochet stitches all complete, and now we're going to start working the decrease rounds for the head. So we're going to go ahead and single crochet 3 and then decrease, and we're going to repeat that 5 more times around for a total of 24 stitches. So we will single crochet 3, and then decrease, and we'll repeat that all the way around 5 more times. Now we are going to single crochet 2 and then decrease, and we'll repeat that 5 more times for a total of 18 stitches. So we'll single crochet 2 and then decrease, and repeat that 5 more times. Now we are going to start adding stuffing as we go. So we'll go ahead and just set our hook aside for a second and grab some stuffing. And we'll just start filling up the head. And we're going to continue adding stuffing along the way, so you don't have to stuff this very tight right now. Just go ahead and get a little bit of stuffing in there to hold its shape. And now we are going to continue decreasing. So for this round, we are going to single crochet 1 and then decrease, and we'll repeat that 5 more times around for a total of 12 stitches. So we will single crochet and then decrease, and we'll repeat that 5 more times. And now we are going to switch yarn colors again, and we're going to start working in yellow yarn. So this is going to be the transition from Sally's head down into her body. So we're going to attach that yellow yarn. And then we are going to single crochet 1 and then increase, and we'll repeat that 5 more times for a total of 18 stitches. So we're going to start increasing again to shape out the body. So we'll go ahead and do that 1 single crochet stitch and then an increase, and we'll repeat that 5 more times. And we can go ahead and cut that blue yarn off because we won't be needing it anymore. And then we can stuff those yarn tails down in to get them out of the way for our future rounds. So for the next round, we are going to single crochet 2 and then increase. And we're going to repeat that 5 more times for a total of 24 stitches. So we will single crochet 2 and then increase, and repeat that 5 more times. All right, and now we have finished our increases for the body. So now we are going to single crochet 3 rounds. So we're going to single crochet in every stitch around, which would be 24 stitches, and we're going to do that for 3 rounds. So I will meet you back here once we've done those 3 rounds of 24 stitches. All right, now I am back with those 3 rounds of single crochet stitches complete. And now we're going to start decreasing to close up the body. So to do that, our first round of decreases is going to be single crochet 2 and then decrease, and we'll repeat that 5 more times for a total of 18 stitches. So we'll go ahead and single crochet 2 and then decrease, and we'll repeat that 5 more times. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and start adding in some more stuffing. So we'll set the hook aside for a second and start adding in a little bit more stuffing. So we can go back in and finish filling out the head if we didn't stuff that quite as tight as we wanted to. And then we'll add just a little bit into the body to give it its shape. Alright, so now we will continue on to our next decrease round, and we are going to single crochet 1 and then decrease, and we'll repeat that 5 more times for a total of 12 stitches. So we will single crochet 1 and then decrease, and we'll repeat that 5 more times. Now we are on to our final decrease round of the body. So at this point, if you want to add in more stuffing, now is the time to go ahead and do that, because after the next round, it is going to get pretty tight and pretty difficult to add in stuffing. I'm pretty happy with the amount of stuffing I have in so far, so I'm not going to add more, but feel free to add more if you need to. For the final round, we are going to decrease 6 times for a total of 6 stitches. So we're going to decrease, and we'll repeat that 5 more times. And now we can go ahead and cut off that yarn tail, and we can fasten off. So just pull that yarn tail through, and then we can thread that yarn tail through a needle, and we'll sew up this opening. So I like to just loop around every stitch around. So I go from top underneath, so I just kind of loop it around like that. And I do that to every stitch around. And then I pull the yarn tail tight, and that kind of helps close up the gap. And then I can sometimes will make just a few little stitches all around to help close it up if it's not pulling as tight as I would like it to. So I'm just going to add that one little stitch there, and then insert my needle up through the body and pull it out through the top. Give it a nice pull to make sure it is closed up in there, and then I can cut off that yarn tail. And here is our head and body all completed of our Sally ornament. So now it is time to start adding on some of the other details. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and start making the eyes. So we're going to need to make 2 eyes, and I'll show you one on camera how to make them. And then you can either pause the video or rewind it and watch it again to make the other eye. So we're going to go ahead and make a magic ring and make 6 single crochet stitches into that ring. And now we can pull that yarn tail tight and kind of wiggle it around. We want to make sure that all of these stitches are laying flat. We need to pull that. And then we can go ahead and slip stitch into the first stitch that we made. And for the next round and the final round, we are just going to work an increase and then single crochet 2, and we'll repeat that one more time. So we'll have a total of 8 stitches in this round. This is going to help the eyes go from a perfect circle shape to a little bit of an oval. So we're going to work an increase, and now single crochet 2, and we're going to work another increase, and single crochet 2 again. And now we can go ahead and cut the yarn tail. We want to leave quite a bit of room for sewing on later. And then we can pull that yarn tail through. And here is one of Sally's eyes all completed. Go ahead and make one more of these exactly the same, and I'll meet you back here for the next step. Alright, the next piece that we need to crochet are the patches. So we are going to make 2 different colored patches. We're going to make one in this brighter blue and one in this bright pink. So I'm just going to, like the eyes, show you one patch on camera, and then you can pause it and make another patch in the other color. So I'm going to go ahead and chain 4. So we're not working in the round for the patches. We're just going to make a normal chain, chaining 4. And now we are going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook and the next 2 chains. So that is going to be single crocheting 3. So we're going to skip that 1 chain and then single crochet 3. And now we will chain 1 and turn our work, and we're going to single crochet 3 again. And here is one of our patches. So that is all. It is just those 2 rows of single crocheting 3. We can go ahead and fasten off the yarn, cut the yarn tail. We do want to leave a fairly long yarn tail just to sew this onto the body at the end. Then we can pull that yarn through, and then we just need to make one more of these patches in this pink color. So I'll meet you back here once we have that second patch done. Now that we have finished crocheting the body and the 2 eyes and the 2 patches, now it is time to start adding on the hair. So Sally's hair is going to be crocheted directly onto the top of her head, so there's no sewing required for the hair. We are going to just attach it directly into this scalp area. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'll show you how to add on Sally's hair. First, we are going to find the front of Sally. So you can pick anywhere to be the front, but as you can see in the back, we have some of these color changes that we're going to want to hide with the hair if we can. So we're going to go ahead and flip it around, and this is the prettiest side. So this is going to be my front, and we're going to tilt it up so that we are looking at the scalp. And we're going to go ahead and insert our hook into a stitch that is to the right of the center. So we're going to go just to the right of the center and all the way up towards the front of the scalp. So I'm going to insert our hook right in there, and we'll pop the hook out 1 stitch above. So this is where our first strand of Sally's hair is going to go. So we'll go ahead and attach the red yarn onto her head. So we'll go ahead and take the red yarn and pull it through. And then we can chain 1 to attach it. And now to make the first strand of hair, we're going to chain 25 stitches. And now we are going to single crochet all the way down that strand of hair. So we're going to skip the first chain next to the hook, and we're going to single crochet down this strand of hair all the way back to the scalp. Now that we are back to the base of Sally's head, we are going to slip stitch back into that same stitch that we started this hair strand in. We will make a slip stitch, and then we can fasten off the yarn. You don't have to leave a very long yarn tail here. We'll just be tucking those in at the end. All right, now we have that first strand of Sally's hair completed, and we're going to go ahead and add on our next strand. So our first row of hair is going to be to the right of that center line and working backwards. And we're going to add another row just like this one on the other side. But for now, we will just work towards the back. And we're going to want 4 strands of hair in total. So you want to just try to evenly space that out. So we have our first strand right up here. We ideally want that last strand to be right on the edge of the scalp, and then 2 more will go in between. So I'm going to kind of use that center point in the scalp as a reference line and say that we want 2 in front of that center and 2 behind that center. So I will go ahead and insert my hook where I think is a good place, which is just the next stitch down, and it's going to line up perfectly with that center. And we're going to do the exact same thing that we did for our first strand of Sally's hair. We're going to chain 25 and single crochet all the way back down. So I will meet you back here after we have worked that row of 4 hair strands in a row to the right of the scalp. This is what the hair is looking like after those 4 strands. We have all of these yarn tails that will need to get tucked in at the end, but for now I'm going to just ignore them. If you want, you can go ahead and tuck them in along the way. I'm just going to wait until the end and tuck them all in. So we have our first row of hair that is along the right side, and to make it a little bit more full, instead of just these 4 strands over here, we're going to lift that up and we're going to work another row of hair right below it. So we're going to go in this bottom row that is the divider between the scalp and the head, and that is where we're going to put our second row of hair. But instead of 4 strands, since this is a little bit of a smaller area, we're going to just work 3 strands evenly spaced along this area. They don't have to be perfectly spaced, just a little bit even throughout this area. So I'm going to go ahead and work 3 more strands of hair along this area, and then I'm going to do the same exact thing to the other side of the head. So we're going to work another row of 4 and then another row of 3 underneath. So after this step, we are going to have 4 strands of hair over here on top, 3 on the bottom, and the exact same thing on the other side. 4 strands along the top, 3 strands along the bottom. And I will meet you back here after we have worked all of that hair, and we will work an additional 2 in the back, but I will show you that in the next step. So go ahead and crochet all of those hair strands and I'll meet you back here. All right, I am back and we are finally done with all of those hair strands. So we're going to go ahead and start tucking in all of these extra yarn tails. That's going to help clean all of this up and start making it look like hair instead of just a mess on the top of the head. So we're going to go ahead and just start weaving in these yarn tails. And all I'm going to do to tuck these in is thread the yarn tail through my needle. And I like to make sure I pull it nice and tight just to make sure that it cinches up to the scalp. And then I'll insert the needle into Sally's head and pull it out anywhere else on the body or in the head. Again, pull it tight and cut it off. So this is going to make sure that those yarn tails are inserted into the body and hidden away. It should also make sure that they don't pull out at any time. So I'm going to go ahead and do exactly what I just did to every single one of these yarn tails all over the head. And I will meet you back here once I'm done cleaning all of that up. All right, I am back with all of those yarn tails all tucked in, and it actually looks like hair now. So it doesn't look like a giant mess. We have all of our strands of hair completed. So I'm going to go over this one more time and just show you where we added on all of those strands of hair, because I know that it can get a little confusing about where exactly we are adding them on until we can actually see it at the end. So you can see this is our front center part, and if you go towards all the way towards the back, you see that we have these 2 yarns that we added on at the end. So these are the 2 strands that we added on to fill out that back part. And then over here on the left, we have 4 strands of hair up on top. And if we flip those over, we'll see that we have these 3 down below. And the same thing on the other side. We have these 2 in the back, and then we have the 4 up top and 3 on the bottom. So that is what we're wanting it to look like. And here is the front with the center part. And we'll go ahead and start adding on the eyes and the patches and embroidering on those final details. All right, so I will go ahead and start sewing on the eyes. So we are going to thread the yarn tail through our needle. And this is the long yarn tail at the end, not the starting yarn tail. We'll ignore that for now and tuck it in a little bit. But what I like to do to really complete this oval, you can see that it's a little flat right there where we fastened off. So I just like to skip this one stitch and loop it through this next one. And that helps just kind of start to create a little bit more of the oval shape, kind of unflattens out that bit. So we're going to go ahead and attach the first eye right here to the front of Sally's face. And we're going to go offset from the center, kind of angled so that it's at a slight angle with the long part facing diagonally so that it looks like the shape of her eye. So we'll go ahead and start sewing that down. We're going to take that long yarn tail and just sew all the way around this eye. And we're going to just continue sewing around until we feel like the eye is secure. So that is going to be however many rounds you want to go until you feel like the eye is nice and secure. That might just be 1 round, it might be 2, it might be more. It all depends on once that eye starts to feel like it is nice and attached. Once it does feel attached, we're going to insert that needle through the body and pull it out in another spot. And then we're going to do the same to that starting yarn tail. So we will just thread the needle and push it towards the back of the head. And we can go ahead and cut off the yarn tails now. All right, so now we are on to the second eye. We're going to thread the yarn through the needle like we did with the last eye. And again, to make that less flat, we're going to skip a stitch and insert our needle into the next stitch and pull that tight. And that's starting to round out the oval. Remember, you want to have the oval angle. So just like this one, we're going to match it, but going in the opposite direction. And we will just go ahead and sew on the eye. And just like we did with the other eye, once we feel like it is secure, we will insert that needle through the body, pull it out the other side, and we will do the same thing on the starting yarn tail. So just insert that through. And then we can cut off the yarn. And here is what the eyes are looking like right now. And we're going to go ahead and move on to sewing on the patches. We'll come back to the eyes at the very end and add on the pupils and the eyelashes. But for now, we're going to go ahead and sew on the patches. Just like with the eyes, we're going to go ahead and thread the yarn through the needle, and then we're going to attach the patch to the body. So I'm going to turn the patch from the long ways being sideways to the long ways being up and down. So now it is taller than it is wide. And we're going to sew this pink patch on the right side of the body. So it's going to be right up top here, slightly over to the right. So kind of under that right eye. And we are going to just sew all the way around just like we did the eyes. And once you feel like the patch is secure, we will insert the needle through the body, just like we have been doing with all of the other yarn tails. And we'll do the same thing to the other yarn tail of the patch, just to clean up those yarn tails and cut them off. Now for the second patch, again, attach it onto your needle, and we're going to leave this one so that it is longer horizontally than it is vertically, and we are going to attach that next to the other patch, except we are going to position it farther down the body. So this right patch is farther up and to the right. This other one is going to be down to the left. So we'll go ahead and just sew that on. And like always, once we are done sewing that on, we're going to put both yarn tails to the back and we will cut them off. Alright, so now we are on to embroidering on all of the details. So we're going to need to embroider on the pupils, the eyelashes, the smile, and the details on each of her patches. So we're going to go ahead and insert our black yarn threaded through the needle through the bottom of Sally. This is going to help kind of hide that yarn tail away. And we are going to pop that needle out into the eye. So I'm going to pull quite a lot of this black yarn through. That way we have enough yarn pulled through to do all of the embroidery. And now you can see we're going to start working on the pupil. So we have this yarn that has come out. It is to the bottom left of the center of the eye. So that's where we want it to be coming out. That's where we're going to start the pupil. You can see it's kind of angled down to the left. And then we're going to insert it directly through the center of the eye. So you can see that that is the original magic ring that we started. We want to insert it through the center of the eye. And I'm going to pop that needle out right through the center of the other eye. So right through that magic ring area. So I'm going to pull this yarn all the way through. And now that is one of Sally's pupils done. And we're going to do the same thing over on this side. So you can see we're coming through the center of the eye. We're going to just angle it down so that it comes out to the bottom to the right this time. And we're going to pop that needle through. And now I'm going to angle the needle so that it comes out right below that eye, a little bit to the left. So we're going to start working on the smile next. So we want to get our needle lined up. And we're going to pop out the needle right about there. So I'm going to pull all that yarn through. And now you can see her pupils and we'll start working on the smile. So we want her smile to go all the way across her face here, but we want it to angle down. So I'm going to go ahead and it's coming out right there all the way on the side of the eye. I'm going to pick a stitch that is in the center, so right between those eyes and down 2 rows. And that is where I'm going to make the center of her smile. And then I'm going to pop my needle back out in line with that same row that we started on, right to the other side of the eye. So we're going to pull that down, and that has made half of her smile. So we'll just go ahead and insert our yarn back into the center here to complete the smile. And then I'm going to pop it out 1 row below the smile back on the starting side. And that is what her smile is looking like. And so we're going to start adding on the little stitches of detail to her smile. So we're just going to loop around right there, and then we'll pop out a couple rows to the side. And you can make as many stitches. It doesn't really matter how many you make along her mouth. Just make as many as you would like. And once you get to the final stitch that you're making, we're going to insert it where we want the yarn to go, but then we're going to pop it out over here on this left eye towards the bottom outside, so right about there. And what we're going to be doing now is working on her eyelashes. We're going to pull that tight, and we're going to start making eyelashes. So we have it kind of in the center of her eye there, and we're just going to start making some little loops for the eyelashes. I'm holding it upside down just to get that hair out of the way. You want to make sure it is angled up a little bit just to give her a little bit of definition to her eyelashes. I'm going to come through and make a loop like that and insert the needle back towards the eye. And then I'm going to make another eyelash doing the same exact thing, and then pop out right above the eye and we'll make a third eyelash. And then for this final eyelash, I'm going to just insert the needle back through over to the other side, and we'll start working on those eyelashes next. So as you can see, she's starting to have some little eyelashes here, and we're just going to do the exact same thing to this side, looping upwards and making those eyelashes. And again, on that final eyelash, we now need to push that needle through to our next area to embroider, which is going to be down on these patches. So we're going to push that needle all the way through to the top right of this patch down here. So we're going to pull that all the way through. And you can see we have our 3 eyelashes up here that match, and her smile's done and her pupils are done. So now we just have to add these little details onto the patch. So I'm going to make a diagonal stitch from the top right of this pink patch down to the bottom left. So we're just going to make one big stitch. If I can get my needle through there. And then we're going to pop it out over on this blue patch. So we're going to do the exact opposite. We're going to pop it out at the bottom right. And then we are going to do a diagonal stitch up to the top left. I'm going to make that stitch, and I'm going to pop it out over here back to the pink one, and we'll make just 2 little ending stitches to make it look like a patchwork square. So we'll just add these 2 little stitches on. Again, if I can get my needle through there. And we will just add on those details. And we'll do the exact same thing over on to the blue patch. And when you're on that final stitch of the blue, we're going to push that needle through to the back of the body, or up through the head, wherever you can get that needle out. And now we can go through and cut off those starting yarn tails because they are nice and secure in there now. All right, and now we are on to our final step of our Crochet Sally doll. So this is a completely optional step. You could just leave it here and you have a perfectly cute little Sally. But I'm going to add on a hanger so that it can be an ornament to hang on a Christmas tree or just hang off of anything in general. I'm going to use yellow yarn. You could use any color you want for the hanger. I'm going to thread this onto my needle. And we're going to go to the top of Sally's head. So you see that original starting magic ring. We're going to insert on either side of that. So we're going to insert it through like that. And that will pull the yarn through. We can go ahead and set our needle aside for a minute. And we're going to tie this yarn to make the hanger. So you can choose however long you want to make the hanger. To make it about that long. And then loop it around again to make a knot. And you can kind of adjust it if you want. You can retie it if you want a different length. But that is what it's looking like. So now I'm going to take both of those 2 yarn tails, thread them through the needle together. And I'm going to rotate the hanger so that the knot is now inside of Sally. So you can see it pops down into the hair and is hidden. And now we can just take those 2 yarn tails, insert our needle through, pull out anywhere else. And it might pull through like that, like it just did for me, but all you have to do is kind of pull that back up. And now you can cut off those yarn tails. And that is how we have our little ornament hanger onto the top of Sally. And here is our finished Sally ornament from The Nightmare Before Christmas. I hope you enjoyed learning how to crochet your own Sally ornament. If you did, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more crochet patterns and tutorials. If you do decide to make either Sally or Jack, I would love to see it. You can tag me on Instagram at the CrafteeManatee, or you can leave a project page over on Ribbler. Thanks for watching. Bye.